welcome to One Girl at a Time, a podcast for girls, by girls, with girls. I'm Hajar.
And I'm Umaymah, and we are here today to spotlight on the power that girls have.
We appreciate everyone for taking the time to listen to our podcast today.
For our very first episode, we are going to talk about who we are, what Junior Mu Delta Alpha stands for, and what we represent.
But first, let's get into our mini segment, Our World at a Glance.
During this mini segment, we will be talking about the events that are happening around the world so that our listeners can stay educated and informed, because knowledge is power.
What do you want to talk about today, Umaymah?
I think we should talk about the presidential election.
The presidential election? This is our world at a glance, not our U.S. at a glance. That's not world news.
It actually is. You'd be surprised. The United States presidential election actually has a lot of influence on foreign policies and relationships. An example would be that we have a lot of military bases in other countries. Some examples would be Germany, Japan, South Korea, and Malaysia.
That's interesting. I guess with that being said, for the 2020 presidential election, we had the largest voter turnout in history, which is amazing. So powerful too. There were 80 million Democrats that voted and 70 million Republicans. That's a lot of people if you really think about it.
You're right. It is pretty cool. A lot of the young voters came through and encouraged others to vote and really put out their opinions. For example, there were people who couldn't even vote that encouraged others on social medias to vote, like on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, myself, and a lot of my friends on social media, we encourage people to vote on our Instagrams. We would constantly repost. We'd be like, please vote. Even though we couldn't, we knew that we could at least try our best to make a difference by encouraging other people to vote. And everyone has this, a lot of people had this mindset of, oh, I'm one person, my vote might not make a difference. It really doesn't matter. But in the end, if you really look at the numbers now, a lot of it really mattered. Those mail-in ballots mattered. That one person did make a difference. So it's thanks to us young people that encourage people to vote.
Definitely. And because of that large turnout of American voters, in result, Joe Biden won the election along with his vice president, Kamala Harris, which is really cool.
It's so groundbreaking because Kamala Harris is now the first female, Black, South Asian vice president. It's crazy because we've never had a Black vice president before. We've never had a South Asian vice president before. And we've definitely never had a female vice president before.
Talk about representation, yeah.
For real, exactly. They're set to be inaugurated on January 20th. 2 days after my birthday, so I'm really excited.
That must be a little mini birthday present, I guess.
I guess so. The current president is not conceding, and he continues to claim fraud, which is really dangerous.
It is serious. Because of this, Joe Biden's team will not be able to move in and kind of take over and get prepared for the next month.
Yeah, it really is precedented. But in the Constitution, it says once January 20th hits, we are getting a new president. So if our current president fails to leave the White House by his own will, I believe he will be escorted out by the military, which is quite embarrassing. I would just pack my bags and leave, to be honest. With that being said, let's move on to the next topic, us. My name, as y'all know, is Hajar. My last name is Abdul Qadir. I am currently a sophomore, 10th grade. It's been a crazy year. I'm 15 years old, turning 16 in January. I really enjoy watching Netflix. I always have my phone on Do Not Disturb because of that, and I was like, oh, pick up your phone, please. My favorite K dramas are Crash Landing on You. I really enjoy watching K dramas, and my favorite ones are Crash Landing on You. That was like a top hit this year, and also It's Okay to Not Be Okay. Those are my favorite K dramas. They really like actually made me cry. It was crazy. And then my other hobbies are I really love baking, and my friends are always like, "Oh my gosh, she considers baking therapy," which is so funny to me. I always laugh when they say that to me. And I really also enjoy photography as like a side hobby. And that's all about it for now.
Okay, my name is Umaymah Masi. I am 16, turning 17 in March. I have a lot of interests, but my main hobbies are everything art, food because I like baking and cooking too. I agree, it is therapeutic, and I like fashion, so I enjoy watching like runways and kind of looking on websites on different designers and kind of seeing what kind of designs that they've come up with this season. So that's a little bit about me.
In the future, we both actually like talked about this a bunch of times before. We both aspire to be doctors. I feel like you guys listening might relate. Being a doctor is like a really good thing because not only does it make I believe a good amount of money, it also like helps people, and it's a career that you can like take anywhere in the world. And even if you don't do it for the money, you're still like making a difference in the world by helping people.
I agree, and I find science so fascinating. So to be able to not only help people and also like go on a journey of learning about different things, I feel like that's like the perfect, career for me. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sure you all are wondering more about our podcast. We are a branch from a leadership academy for girls called Junior Mu Delta Alpha, where we encourage girls to be more confident, help them learn more about
Leadership.
being part of a sisterhood, and encourage them to be the best that they can be.
And Junior Mu Delta Alpha is a leadership academy that helps girls reach to their full potential.
One of the thing There's a lot of things we do in Junior Mu Delta Alpha. One of the things we do is we hold an annual yearly summit. It's a really exciting experience where we have different guest speakers from different backgrounds that share their stories and empower the young girls that come to our summit. One of the biggest speakers that we've had so far in the past years was the first Muslim Congresswoman Ilhan Omar.
Speaking of Congresswomen in Congress, speaking of Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, we actually got to meet her on our trip to DC earlier this year.
I remember that trip. It was a week before we went straight into lockdown. It was like the craziest time ever.
It really was.
We were able to sit down in Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's office actually and talk to her, and she really did share some great words of wisdom with us. And after that, she also gave us passes to the House chamber floor, so we got to go there and sit down. Before we got to even enter there, we had to like take off our jackets and like remove our phones and like nothing, like no backpacks. You are only allowed to bring yourself in there. And we sat there for almost 2 hours because we were supposed to go for remember it was like a hearing that was going to be at 11:30, and it was, I believe, for a COVID stimulus.
Yes,
like
it
that
was.
was right when it hit. But it kept getting delayed and delayed, and we sat there for 2 hours
Just
I was like,
waiting,
oh
yeah.
my gosh. But it was still like a really nice experience to like see it. Like it's still so cool. Like even if there was no hearing, it was so cool. Like they had like faces like carved into the walls, and like it was all velvet, and it was so nice.
It was truly a memorable experience for us because we got to not only hang out with our colleagues, and we also got to see around DC, and we also went to a museum, which was super fun.
Yeah, the African American Museum of History. It was like so cool as well. It was like really like touching, like seeing that history too. It was like it started all the way from the bottom, like the beginning, early years of slavery and stuff, and like it also like almost made some of us cry. Like it was just so like you felt it in your heart, like you felt like, imagine I went through that pain. I would not be like, you know what I mean.
Seeing those pictures and those stories being told really did um like helped you get a picture of what really happened and kind of what they were going through at that time. And it was truly sad, but we're so grateful to be able to have that experience, to go to that museum and kind of see like the history. So yeah, it was a really truly memorable experience.
That was that was actually my first and only trip as of now. Hopefully in the future, once we are over with this pandemic, we might be able to go on another trip for Junior Mu Delta Alpha. In the past years, they have gone to New York, which is also very cool. If you guys want to find out more about Junior Mu Delta Alpha, visit our website, www.mudeltaalpha.org, or visit the Instagram page at Junior Mu Delta Alpha.
This platform was created for girls to kind of encourage everyone to speak on their issues. Us girls, as young girls, we tend to be under pressure because of our peers, magazines, and etc. So we want to be that platform that kind of pushes through all that and encourages girls to speak out, because girls have such diverse voices.
One Girl at a Time was inspired by the support of girls and women in our lives who believed in us and helped us create this platform. We wanted to share our story. We wanted to use this platform to share our stories and really connect with other girls and show them that they have a place in this world and that they have a safe place as well.
Hajar and I want One Girl at a Time podcast to be a platform where it inspires girls to be their true selves and kind of speak on their issues. We also want girls to feel needed, important, and safe.
And with that being said, it's Hajar
And it's Umaymah.
reminding you that you can change the world.
Contact us on our platforms.
You could feel free to shoot us an email at ogat@mudeltaalpha.org or send us a DM on Instagram at ogatpodcast. I love replying. I love interacting with y'all as well.
And it's fun to see what you guys want from us, so please do.
Yeah, if you have any suggestions, any ideas, if you'd like to feature, we'd love to have you.
And with that concludes our very first episode. Thank you so much for listening. And for our next episode, we're going to have a very special guest, so please stay tuned.
Welcome to One Girl at a Time, a podcast for girls, by girls, with girls. I'm Hajar.
And I'm Umaymah, and we are here today to spotlight the power that girls have in this world.
For today's episode, we have a very special guest. But first, let's get into our mini segment, Our World at a Glance.
So today's topic is a pretty repetitive one, the coronavirus.
I'm sure you all know about the coronavirus. Everyone in the world does. A lot of things have changed in our daily lives due to the coronavirus. One of those things being school, a place where we used to go spend like almost 8 hours at, come home, eat lunch, do like homework, and then go to sleep at like 11 a.m. Not 11 a.m. 1 a.m. after like watching maybe 3 episodes of our favorite show. And that's changed like drastically, especially in like the US. It's not being handled well. So we've been like having to do online school. It's starting almost March. And let me tell you, online school is the worst.
Yeah.
Don't you agree?
I agree, definitely. It's not the same as what online school was back in March. Now it's kind of completely different and there's more pressure on us. And I feel like because of the pressure, a lot of students are struggling to keep up with their classes. So I've been hearing a lot of complaints.
Yep, from me especially. I do not like online school. And a lot of my friends know that. They're always like, you always complain about online school. Like, stop it already. Well, like, it's just really stressful. Like, it's like you had to switch environments. Like, a school environment is definitely different from a home environment. Being on a screen, you're not around, like, people anymore. And you're also, like, a lot of like our work has turned to become digital, which is like really stressful. Like when you have it on paper, I feel like it's like there's a different, since it's in a different form, it's easier to do it on paper than it is like digitally. Just like something about it, like it's easier to focus on it than it is digitally for me personally.
I agree. Every time I'm on my computer, I feel like all the other tabs that I have open from my other classes, they distract me because I'm worried about this assignment and that assignment. And I learn the same way as you. I like to write my things down, my things on paper physically. That way, I learn the material that I'm given better. But because it's online, I've been struggling to kind of write notes, and I've been doing extra notes. So now I've been doing Google Docs, and I have a notebook for every class. So yep.
And another thing is, I feel like teachers think we have more time.
Yes.
But
Oh my
I feel like
goodness.
my time has like gotten like so much smaller. I feel like I have no time in a day. And before we'd like wake up at like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., go to school, come home, go to sleep at 1 a.m., do it again the whole next day. Like now I can't even wake up I cannot wake up early anymore. I'll do 3 assignments maybe. Like it's so hard to be motivated, constantly being stuck at home. Like I'll do 3 assignments and I'm tired. I'm done for the day. And if I go to sleep at 1 a.m. now, I cannot wake up before 1 p.m. the next day. Like it's
Same here. It's so hard to sleep late and wake up early. It's such a bad combination. And another thing about online school, it really put us in a box. Like we're literally in our rooms and we're sitting down for 8+ hours. It's not just 8 hours anymore. And that's going to take a toll on our bodies as we grow older because no sunlight and no proper exercise and sitting for long periods of time is not good at all.
yeah, it's like such a sedentary lifestyle, and I really do hate it. Like I feel like I have nothing time for nothing else. I wake up, schoolwork, 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 schoolwork. Like it never ends. It feels like it's never ending now.
It's a whole cycle that we cannot get out of. Yeah.
And like because of how badly students are doing, the state of Texas actually did like issue, I believe, like an order or a rule, was it, where districts can ask students to come back to school if they're doing really badly academically. And it's like kind of really bad because Texas has a high number of COVID cases. And
Yeah. And
that's not a good combination,
at all.
asking students to come back to school with a high number.
No, it's terrible. And the cases in the United States have gotten so high. And like, I feel like everyone now, there's someone that they know that had COVID or
Yeah.
even like recovered. And it's so scary. So
It's really bad. And another thing is like a lot of other countries in the world, like Australia, they literally got rid of COVID in 28 days. They don't have to wear masks. I saw a video on TikTok. They were in a stadium, 53,000 people, no masks, and not a single COVID case because they handled it properly in the beginning. So I'm super jealous of them, definitely.
freedom, right?
Yeah, like I just it's like they're trying to like normalize us having to constantly wear masks. Like they're trying to make this normal for us having such high COVID cases. It's not normal, like compared to the America, how they handled it, and how like other countries, also like Korea, they'll have a lockdown and they'll give the citizens like quarantine packages, like relief packages.
Yeah.
It's been like maybe like 4 months since they've tried to pass a second stimulus package, and it won't go through. They were able to pass a judge in the Senate like within 30 days, but a second stimulus package, God forbid.
Correct. And because all the other countries have been handling it well, they got to do other things. And I feel like in the US, not a lot of people are taking it seriously enough. So it doesn't seem like we're going to go anywhere soon. So
Another funny thing is, in the beginning, pre-pandemic, like maybe March, people were going crazy stocking up their toilet paper. They were out of toilet
Right.
paper. They were like stocking up on food. Like they would like not leave their houses. They were taking it seriously when we did not have that many cases. And now we've passed like 1 million, and everyone's like they're totally ignoring all the COVID guidelines now. Like
I feel like they were only taking it seriously in a physical and materialistic way, not really like
yeah, and like
so.
at the point we were at before, and now like they're totally different. Like it wasn't that
Definitely.
serious in the beginning, but they like took it seriously, and now it's so serious and no one's taking it seriously.
Exactly.
So yeah,
That concludes our one glance.
our world at a glance.
That concludes our world at a glance.
Introducing our first One Girl at a Time podcast guest speaker, Samira Maddox. She is the founder of the First Muslim Sorority in Texas and the United States, Mu Delta Alpha, and the inspiration behind this podcast, as well as an amazing and inspiring woman.
Hello, thank you for having me today. I'm so excited to see the podcast coming to life and to see you amazing young women behind that microphone and all the work that we've put together, and today it's finally here. So thank you for being the first guest. What an honor for me. I'm really appreciative. Thank you so much for both of you having me today on the show.
We're so glad. We're so happy to have you on. We're so happy to have you on here with us.
We'd like to start off by asking you our first question. Mu Delta Alpha, the first Muslim sorority in Texas and almost the United States. That's a pretty big deal. We'd like to ask you to tell us a little bit about that and how you came for the inspiration behind it.
All right. Well, as everybody else, I went to University of Dallas in Texas, that's UTD, and it's one of the most amazing schools actually, and not seeing any representation for me as I wanted to have the full college experience like everybody else, and I'm hoping that when you guys go to colleges and universities, you will want to have this amazing American college experience, to be a part of a club, to be a part of a student organization. And I wanted to be a part of a sorority, which means that it's something that could, I wanted to be a part of a sisterhood. I wanted to be a part of a professional network, and I wanted to be a part of something which is long lasting after college. And this is when I went to UTD, there was no Muslim sorority. There was no women who looked like me or there was no representation for me. And this is the inspiration behind Mu Delta Alpha. And I started it in 2016 when I was in college. And now Mu Delta Alpha has grown so much. We have chapters across the United States, and we're still growing. And it's inspired us to do so much work, and I'm very excited 7 years later what Mu Delta Alpha has accomplished.
7 years. That's amazing. How about you tell us a little bit about Junior Mu Delta Alpha, the Leadership Academy?
Well, so Junior Mu Delta Alpha came out of, Mu Delta Alpha. After organizing Mu Delta Alpha and getting the college chapters organized, I was thinking, how can we engage young girls from the ages 14 to 16 and prepare them for this journey of college? And then when they graduate college, how they can join Mu Delta Alpha and continue with the legacy. So when I was growing up as a 15, 14-year-old, I didn't have all these resources. I didn't have access to people who believed in me, who inspired me, or who mentored me. So I was thinking of a young girl who's living in America right now, and a young Muslim girl to be specific, who do not see no representation for them, and they need mentors. I feel like as a young girl when I was growing up, one of the things that I desperately needed was mentorship. Somebody or someone or a group who will show me and who will teach me how to navigate this journey of life. And that's how Junior Mu Delta Alpha came about. And I think the most essential thing for young girls to learn is leadership, finding your voice, representation. And if you give all those ingredients to young girls, guess what they're going to do? They're going to reach their full potential. And this is what I really, really, really wanted to do. And I am so happy and I'm so glad that it's come to life. And this is what it does. So if you help girls, if you support girls, if you give them the right ingredients, you give them the right environment, the right resources, guess what it does? It brings a podcast like Changing the World One Girl at a Time. It's actually exactly what our mission is and our vision is. So that's how Junior Mu Delta Alpha Leadership Academy came together.
Thank you for that. That's really inspiring to have that platform, that environment for girls. I've been meaning to ask you, how do you run the academy now despite COVID? And what are some of the things you teach in the curriculum?
Fabulous. So what a great question. So what we do in the academy, we used to meet every Saturday for 2 hours. And what now we have done, like everybody else, we're doing everything virtually, like virtual classes. Now we do everything via Zoom, and our curriculum is made to, it's an awesome thing that every month we have a different theme. We start from leadership, we've gone through mentorship month. We teach everything about leadership, what kind of leadership styles, how you can be a leader and inspired to be a leader. And, mentorship month, professional month, we have, civic engagement month. So this is our leadership is themed. Every month we do that. And we are hoping for 1 year, we have 15 girls. For that year, they go through all this curriculum, and this is how we only have 15 girls in our program. And this is what we do. And I'm very excited for the girls who are in our program. We're building leaders in the making.
That's absolutely lovely. Can you tell us about some of the projects that you have?
So apart from having, Junior Mu Delta Alpha, starting this podcast one girl at a time, and having started the sorority chapters that we have in Wichita State, in Ohio, in UT, in Texas, and going to other states very soon. We wanted to have something. I come from Africa. It's one of the most amazing, the most beautiful places I've ever been. And one of the things that when I visited Africa, I really wanted to do something for young girls, because I saw a lot of young girls who are living on the streets, who've been sexually abused, who don't have no parents. And I wanted to have something to give back to them. So we are building our orphanage, Sakina Home for Girls, which is our philanthropy a project for Mu Delta Alpha. We already bought the land. We're starting the building right now. Actually, right now we have a campaign to fundraise to complete the Sakina Home for Girls home, which will be a home for 100. We'll house 100 girls. We'll give them education. We'll give them leadership, training. We will take care of them. So this is something that, and then we hope that we will be with them for the whole journey until they go to college. So we're not only empowering girls in the United States, we're empowering girls in the world. So this is one of the work that we do. We have another thing that Mu Delta Alpha does, and for young girls, I don't know if you guys, touched up on that, is we have a leadership summit every year for girls. This is going to be our 7th year. It's going to come up in February. And this is where we bring 200 to 300 girls, then we inspire them. Then we show them, and we bring people who look like them, who talk to them, who give them advice, who they see themselves in them in the future. So this is what we do. And a whole bunch of things we do. Summer camps for girls. So we are all about girls, as the girls said before. This Mu Delta Alpha is actually, we want to change the world one girl at a time, and it's for girls, by girls, with girls. So this is what we do. I'm hoping I've answered all your questions.
We've gone so far, so we're so happy that you stood out. You saw something that was missing, and you put it out there. We love to see it.
It's really an inspiration in the world, and you really are truly a change maker in the world.
Yes, you are.
Thank you so much for coming today as our guest speaker. We loved having you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I am so honored. I'm so excited to see this platform and what the future holds for One Girl at a Time podcast. And I'm so excited to see what you guys are going to do. And I'm so happy that you're a product of our Junior Mu Delta Alpha Leadership Academy. So if you invest in girls, girls do amazing things and they reach their full potential. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you also. Welcome to One Girl at a Time podcast, a podcast for girls, by girls, with girls. I'm Hajar.
And I'm Umaymah, and we are here to spotlight on the power that girls have in the world.
We wanted to start off this episode by saying Happy New Year's. We hope that this year will be much better than the last one for everyone, including ourselves.
We hope that you see the year 2020 as a year full of lessons that you'll take with you throughout this year and throughout the rest of your lives. But before we talk about today's topic, the influence of social media, let's have our world at a glance.
For today's World at a Glance, we wanted to talk about a very big event that occurred here in the U.S. On January 6th, a large group of people stormed the Capitol building.
It was an astonishing thing to see on TV because it was very serious, number one, and it looked like something extremely terrible was going on. And I can't imagine what other countries were feeling and thinking when they saw what happened.
Another thing that was really shocking for us especially is the fact that they were even able to get through, considering we've been to the Capitol ourselves and we had to go through extensive security to even enter the House chamber.
Yeah, we went through an extremely long line and we couldn't have any liquids. And then we went through another line for our bags and phones and jackets, and we had to put that in a cubby. And then right before we entered the House chamber, we had to go through another line, which also was extremely long. And they had put us through a machine to see that we weren't carrying anything or anything like that. And as you can see, like, it was very vigorous and it was very thorough, and they were very serious about it. And we were very shocked when we even like texted each other like, whoa, like,
Did
what's
you
going
see what
on?
happened?
Yeah, like, what's
that's
going on?
crazy.
So yeah, that was just a crazy experience.
And another thing is, imagine if it was a Muslim person or a person of color, and it just goes to show how there's a big difference in treatment, comparing this to the Black Lives Matter protests back in June and July.
Yeah, and I think it's like a clear display of not only systematic racism, but also how our mindset is as a country. So yeah, and we're literally living through history events like one after another.
As a generation.
Yeah, and like, we'll be seeing this in textbooks and things like that. So it's just really crazy.
Living in textbook years.
Yeah.
Well, that concludes our World at a Glance segment.
Okay. I mean, yeah. For today's episode, we wanted to discuss something very prevalent in everyone's daily life, which is social media. We'll be talking about both the positives and the negatives.
We wanted to start off with the positives, and one of those things is being able to connect with friends on social media. I remember I was able, a few years, maybe 2 years ago, I was able to connect with one of my preschool friends. They came up on my suggested on Instagram, and I was like, I kind of remember this person, so I decided to follow them. And then after that follow, I decided to send them a message and ask them if they remembered me. And they did, and we rekindled our friendship, and now we're really good friends again, which is thanks to social media, because preschool me didn't have a phone. Preschool me didn't have Snapchat.
Yeah.
So there was no way for me to see that friend after preschool, because the day they leave, that's when I never see them again.
Yeah, and it's not only for finding old friends. Social media can be used to connect with people that have similar interests as you. And like, for example, if you are into fashion, you can showcase not only your creativity and whatever, but like you can see who likes the same designers as you, and people who like the same things as you. And it's not only for that, but social media can be used as a place to, find inspiration and kind of get into a new hobby that you never knew that you wanted to get into. So
Definitely. Cooking, baking,
so many things, yeah.
sports. There's a wide range of things that you can find inspiration for on social media. It's like your own personalized mood board.
Yeah.
And another thing is, on social media, you're able to showcase your individuality, talent, creativity. You could be a singer, a songwriter, you can be a gymnast, a photographer. And social media is a place where your talent can be showcased for others to see. Your individuality, maybe you're super into pink For example, you can have like 50 pink posts and that's you. No one
Yeah,
can say anything about it.
because that's how you want to be perceived and perceive yourself. So it's pretty cool, and it's not only about showcasing your like your creativity and all that, but you can also find other people who are into the same things as I mentioned, and it can be used as like a networking thing. So you help out someone else, and somebody else helps you out. And another thing is social media can be used to find information. Um, One thing is like I know on Twitter they'll post people that are missing, and then they'll be using their resources, and people like get together, and even though they don't know each other, they'll be able to put in all this work and effort into finding this missing person. Or another example would be getting information in real time. So it's very useful.
Yeah, for getting information in real time, especially on Twitter. I remember maybe 1 or 2 years back, there was a tornado, and the news wasn't being very helpful as to where that tornado was. So I decided to go onto Twitter, and it was so crazy because there were people posting photos of the tornado. Like you could see good quality photos of the tornado, and people would update each other. Oh, the tornado just passed by here. It looks like it's headed here. Stay safe. They'd update their statuses, update their families, and that's just one of the really good and amazing qualities of social media.
Yeah, and we should get into the negatives now. I know a lot of people probably know all about all of it because our parents kind of like put it on to us. But one thing social media or too much of social media can do is take a negative toll on both your mental and physical well-being. So according to a nonprofit called Common Sense Media, so they did like a study, and kids from ages 8 to 12 years old, so like tweens, spent like 6 hours daily. That's a fourth of the day. Like, that's a
That's a
lot of
lot
time.
of time spent on
Yeah.
a phone. And it's really bad mentally, of course, because your brain isn't focusing on anything else physically because you're laying around all day, sitting, staring at a screen. And another negative is you can grow extremely attached to it,
Hmm.
others and yourself. You can become obsessed with social media. And when you become obsessed with social media, like there's so many toxic things, even though there are positive things, there are also toxic things on social media. People photoshopping their photos, giving you false realities, and that's not really good. And there was a study done by Curious stating a strong link correlation between mental health and the use of social media, stating that a prolonged use of social media may be related to symptoms of depression, anxiety, and stress.
So think about that. Like, it takes, as we mentioned, like it takes a huge toll on you. And you can use social media. No one's telling you not to,
Definitely.
but it's just like too much of it can take like such a toll on you, and you need to kind of know how to manage your time and use it wisely. Those 6 hours, you could be doing something that's useful for yourself, and that,
Exercise.
right, not only that, but like you could use this time to learn a new skill that's going to help you in the future. So,
Always make sure to take time out of your day to
hmm
disconnect, even though your friends are there, people you love, you want to talk to, connect with. It's always good to take time out of your day to disconnect because that is very important for yourself and your well-being.
and one thing social media can do to you is like you will find yourself multitasking a lot, and not only like I find myself doing that. I'll be like cleaning my room, but at the same time, like I'll be like, for example, I'll fold my clothes while watching something, like, and it's multitasking, and it can be hard if you keep doing that after a long time to focus on one thing and get one thing done at one time. So it's important to pace yourself and not get attached.
Even for myself, I scroll through TikTok while doing schoolwork, and then I just give up on the schoolwork and decide I want to be on TikTok, which is not so great of a habit.
No, yeah. But we've all been there. It's normal. It's just we want you guys to kind of like understand that, it's okay, but like we need to take the necessary steps to kind of like let go.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. And the last thing about social media that may be one of the biggest issues is cyberbullying, which is very, very serious.
like I'll see like like comments and under posts, and it can be like super negative, but nobody's showing like how they're feeling at their moment all the time on social media, and you don't know what others are going through, so it's important to be mindful and understand that you don't know what's going on through this other person's head. So is this comment or comment like relevant, and if it's like, is it going to benefit them, and how is it phrased? So
So for some people, their online identity might be fake, but for some, it's real. And it's really important, just if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at
yeah.
all. That's like a universal rule. Everyone knows it.
Yeah, and if there's like been situations where it's gotten like so bad to other people that people will get jailed, like they will spend time in jail for bullying other people. So it's really not worth it. And if you personally see someone like commenting a negative thing on someone else's post, try to go to that account and try to like report it. And if you want, you can ask that person like, oh, why are you doing that? But it's important to like reach out to that person and kind of like understand where they're coming from and like why would you say something like that.
Definitely try not to condone cyberbullying. If you see it happening, try to take action, because you can help somebody. Like being stuck up for, really, like, it helps a person feel better, and it makes them feel like someone's in their corner. So that's why it's so important to stop cyberbullying.
Yeah, and it's always important to be mindful about like how you're managing yourself on also on Instagram or Twitter, whatever they may be. Keep in mind that if you get a negative comment, don't take it too hard. Don't let it get to you. Haters are gonna hate like everyone else says, but like
Definitely.
don't take things online too hard if they are not going to benefit you. So, you know,
And if someone wants to say negative things towards you, it's clear that there's an insecurity in their own life, which is kind
right.
of
So
sad.
if you see like someone commenting, don't go like back on, like don't go back at them. Just ignore it, and if it gets really bad, then confront that person. But like, don't get it, don't let it
Don't
get.
fight hate with hate. That's
Yeah.
never a good solution.
You're just gonna make the situation work. So
Well, thank you for tuning in to our third episode of One Girl at a Time podcast,
once again, it's Umaymah.
and Hajar, reminding you that you can change the world.
Connect.
Welcome to One Girl at a Time, a podcast for girls, by girls, with girls. I'm Hajar.
And I'm Umaymah, and we are here to spotlight on the power that girls have in this world.
We have a special announcement. For today's World at a Glance, we're going to talk about what we're doing to support and empower girls.
We will be hosting MDA's Mu Delta Alpha's 6th annual summit for girls this February the 20th. We will be having inspirational speakers, and it's a summit for leadership specifically for girls. So the speakers will be talking about their experiences, their journeys, and will be inspiring girls. Our goal is to empower girls to make a change and be involved. So we will be having giveaways, raffles, and so much more.
For me personally, this is actually going to be my 5th summit. I've gone to 4 in the past. Those thankfully were in person. However, this one unfortunately is going to have to be virtual due to safety reasons, but I believe it's going to be just as fun. We have so many amazing speakers lined up. We have great activities, and Umaymah and I are hosting it, as she already said, and we have a segment of our own that we are doing during the summit, which I believe is going to be really exciting.
It's going to be super fun.
And for more information about this year's summit, check our Instagram at OGAT Podcast or at Mu Delta Alpha on Instagram. And we hope to see you there.
Okay, so now introducing our very special guest, Sofia Nehal. She is a student at UNT and is majoring in psychology and is planning on being certified in rehabilitation studies. So she has a self-published book called The Sunflower's Moon, which we'll be talking about today.
First off, we wanted to say we are so excited to have you on our podcast today, Sofia.
You guys are excited. I'm literally so excited. I've been waiting for this. I've been so excited and pumped up for this. I've been literally counting down the days. I have it written in my calendar, and school actually started for me this past Monday. So I'm like this was my motivation to get through the first week of school. I was like, oh my God, if I pass and get through this week, I'll be able to see these cute ladies and their whole vibe, and I'm just so excited to be here. So thank you guys so much for this opportunity. I'm so pumped up.
We're really excited to have you, even though it took us a while to get here.
Yeah, we had to reschedule and all that, but we're so glad to have you.
So we want to start off by having our listeners know more about you. So could you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, that sounds perfect. So as you guys said, I'm a student at the University of North Texas. Go Eagles. I love that school. That school is literally my home. I absolutely miss it because I don't live on campus anymore. But every time I'm doing school, and it just reminds me of back when I was actually on campus, and I'm just like, oh my God, crying. I miss campus so much. But I am a senior. I'm planning to graduate this spring, inshallah, hopefully, if everything goes well accordingly to plan. But I'm also aspiring to go to graduate school as a personal goal for myself. I want to either research and behavior analysis, or I want to get my MBA. I haven't really decided on which path that I really want to go to more, because it's more I want to do both at the same time, but that's not possible. So I really just want to get to a point where I just have to pick and choose, if anything. And I know for myself personally that I'll be missing the other one, but I'll be happy with whichever one works out best. I'm also the vice president for a couple organizations. I'm vice president of MSA here at UNT, and then I'm vice president of the Pre-OT Club, which stands for Occupational Therapy, which is a great club. I love the people there. I love the vibes, and I just miss it all being all in person, I am a self-published author. I just published my book back in November, which was pretty eventful, pretty exciting, if I do say so myself. It was something I've always been wanting to do. And yeah, I'm also an entrepreneur. I am one of the co-founders for Kismet by SS, which is also really exciting. So I'm almost everywhere, basically.
That sounds awesome. About your book, The Sunflower's Moon, how did you come up with the title?
So it's actually really interesting. I don't know if you guys remember, but I would say the pre-stages of quarantine, where everyone was just we didn't really know what's going on, and we didn't know if it was a government hoax. We didn't know is it really bad as the news outlets are saying, and things like that. So everyone was getting into their gimmicks and hobbies, either gardening or fitness and things like that. So I love gardening, right? I've always been a gardener, since I came out the womb, basically. Even growing up, I would always garden and grow plants and whatnot. I still do occasionally now. But when I had to move to campus, I I didn't have a whole backyard to grow anything, right? It was just my tiny apartment balcony, and that was it. And then most of everything, it was just things that we can't use, just basic plants. And so when I came home because of the pandemic, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna grow everything. I'm gonna do everything that I've been missing. It was a passion of mine that I really missed. And so one of the flowers that I actually was planting was sunflowers, and they're actually one of my favorite flowers. And so I was actually really hesitant about growing them, because usually whenever I grow them, they don't survive that long, or there's always just some issue with them that they don't survive, or they don't just grow to the full capacity as they're supposed to. So I was really hesitant about it, but I was like, you know what, I really want to grow them. And I remember like when I was trying to come up with the title for the book, like but the sunflowers, like I was just sitting outside my doorstep and the sunflowers was actually sprouting. And like it was like where, it's like it's not necessarily like the sun's almost gone, but it's like the sun and like the moon also, you can see like the crescent of the moon. And I don't know, something just hit me where I was just like looking at the sunflowers and I was just like looking up at the sky at the moon. And I was just like, oh my God, like the sunflowers, like this is perfect. I don't know if that was a sign, but I was just like, this has to be the title. Like out of everything I came up with, like I wrote that down in my journal and I was like, this is it. Like this, I don't care what it is, like this is it, right? So that's how I came up with the title. It was really silly and like I just like it. It's like a mystery. Like, what is the sunflower's moon? Who is the sunflower? What is the sunflower referring to? So I was like, this is perfect. I love it. And I love mysteries too. So it worked out perfectly, if anything.
It is a beautiful title, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Like it's so
Thank
like
you.
mysterious, but then also like it just fits your book so well.
I like how there's like room for interpretation. Like whoever like reads the book, they can like, you know, choose a meaning for it however they will. So it's cool.
Yeah, I really tried to like nail it for like any type of reader, whether they've experienced like similar experiences as I have, but like it's for anyone to read it and to like just be like, wow, like I really like feel this, and it's really strong and powerful.
Yeah. We definitely felt that when we were reading the book. So yeah.
So our next question is, when did you realize that writing a book was definitely something that you wanted to do? Like at what point in your life?
So I've always wanted to write a book. And so whenever I was growing up, you would always find me in a library, like whether the school library or the public library. I was always somewhere like chilling, reading a book. Always. Like you could ask any of my family members, like I would choose a book over anything. I still love reading, like especially because of quarantine, I was able to like, catch up on all of my favorite books, novels, manga, anything that you could read. I would read, right? And so I was always a big reader. And, growing up, I've always dreamt of having my own library in my house, which, like, as I grew up, I'm like, oh my God, that's going to cost me like millions of dollars or something like that, right? But I still like, that's like a dream of mine to have like my own library. But growing up, I also had this dream where I would write my own book and that book would be in my library. And so in college, like I was like, you know what, I really want to like try to get this childhood dream accomplished, right? And so, when you think about like, oh, how do you write a book? Like, where do these people go to write a book? Like, if you go on Google, like, it's not really going to help you because you're going to have to do your own self-research and figure everything else by step. And like, there's so many twists and turns. And I feel like once I actually did it, now I learned so much out of it that if I didn't actually go through with it, or if I didn't even try to publish the book, I would have never learned the things that I've learned out of it. And so the whole idea of it was I wanted to write a book because it was a childhood dream of mine. And then I also wanted to inspire people and to share the experiences that I've had, growing up, especially in like the States and whatnot as like a brown girl, because it's very different. Like you can read books like based off of like, different colored people, just different ethnicities, but sometimes you won't be able to relate to them or like, because of their different environments or experiences. So I wanted to make it very open where anyone, anywhere could read it and they could somewhat understand or even feel like what I felt, right? And so like I did that, and I like once I actually did it, I was like, wow, I really did that. So, and I got to accomplish my childhood dream. So like, it was like always like an all-time dream for me, and now it's done, it's accomplished.
So when you were younger, you talked about writing a book. Did you think that this was the type of book that you were going to write?
Actually, no. I always thought I would write like a novel or some type of like nonfiction book or a children's book. So this was like way off, something different than what I had ideally thought of when I was a kid, because I thought like, oh, like, I'll just write like a children's book and then everyone will just love it or whatever, right? But I ended up writing like, something different, and I feel like this was like a type of, it was just like a piece of me, so I felt like it was more real and more open, so people would read it and they'd be like, okay, wow, like this is literally a piece of her. And so I felt like since now I'm obviously much grown, and I've experienced so much more things since I was a kid, and I just felt like this type of book was much more meaningful, and I had to do something like this rather than like do like a children's book or anything like that.
That's really like, thank you for
Inspiring.
sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, our next question is, obviously, you're a self published author, so seeing that book in physical form, publishing it yourself should like have some crazy feelings. What feelings did you feel when you finally published it?
So when I finally published it, it was actually before I published it to the public, I asked for a proof copy, which is just like an author copy. And so that copy you can't actually like sell to the public. You're just able to just see like, how it looks like in like a real form, whether like besides like, digitally and just like a Word document or anything like that. And so when I got my first proof copy, like I actually didn't know what it was. And so like I like it was just like in this ugly brown package, and I was like, this is so ugly. What is this? And I didn't know it was that, and like it didn't have any labels except like, my name and my address, and I was like, what is this? Like, ew, this is ugly, right? And so I opened it like in my room, like I was just by myself. I opened it and I realized like it was my first like proof copy, and I was just like it was unbelievable because I was super like half of me was like super emotional, half of me was like super excited, and then like there's like so many mixed emotions everywhere where I was just like, oh my god, this is it, like this is the real book. Like I was like on the verge of tears. I was like contemplating, oh my god, like who do I show? Like, oh, should I go show my family? Like who's even at home? Who should I show first? Like I was just super pumped up. I was taking pictures of it. I was like, this is my baby, it came in the mail type of thing. I was super excited, super emotional. I think I even cried about it like afterwards at night. I was like, oh my god, like this is my baby, right? But I was super proud of myself, if anything, because um it's not just writing about the book and just getting to the end and just seeing your product in your hands and you're just like, wow, I did this. It's more like going through the entire process, because it's hard, like as doing any other project, like you have to go from start to finish. You can't just go from the middle and then you just somehow finish, right? And it was just like a very long, eventful, very dramatic, like type of process, just going through and figuring out on my own, because I did it all by myself. I'm a self-published author, so I didn't relatively have any help or guidance. So most of the time it was just like me and my research trying to figure out what to do. So when I finally got it in my hands, I was like, I did that. I went through step 1 all the way to step 10, and I really did do that, right? And so that was like a very like big game changer for me, because I was like, wow, like I did this, like I can do anything now basically. And I was just like, I have to like publish this for the public, and like I want to help other girls realize that they can also too write a book. It's not hard once you do it, and especially once you get through it, you just feel like you're on top of the world. And that's how I felt like I was on top of the world, and I still feel like I'm on top of the world when people are like, oh wow, like you published a book. And I'm like, self-published a book, like you have to like toot your own horn sometimes, and I'm just like, wow, this is crazy, I really did that. And some people, they're like, oh wow, like you actually did that, and I'm like, yeah. And like it makes you emotional realizing that you went through like all of that hard work and it actually does pay off. So it was really, really nice.
So let's get into the content of the book. So something that kind of stood out in your book was about how you connected it all to your faith, and it was beautifully enveloped, by the way. And could you tell us a little bit about that and kind of how you like touched upon mental health?
Yeah, and so I've always been one who was like, I would just like, pray Salah and then, or namaz, I would just pray, and then like, I wouldn't just do it for like a long period of time because I'd be like, oh, like, like I don't need it or whatever. Like I would only do it if I really needed something, right? Which isn't ideally what you want to do when you're praying or, doing something like that. So I really wanted to make it super open and relatable to anyone who would read my book to understand that, God doesn't really need us. It's more like we need Him, and we need to work on ourselves religiously in order to thrive in this dunya, basically, right? And so I wanted to basically make it super open and real with my experiences, being depressed and having anxiety and things like that, and dealing with all these hardships, but also like, connecting it with my faith and also realizing like at the end of the day, you have God and it will be okay. And that um, time will continue, it always will. And it always will work out in some way or form, whether it's something that you wanted to work in or not, it's going to be better for you in a way. And I realized, especially because of what I'm majoring in psych, is that mental health is so extremely important, and it's underlooked a lot in a lot of our cultures, especially like in the culture that I come from, and like a lot of other people I know, like a lot of the mental health aspects, it's always like basically shoved under the door type of thing. Like no one really like looks at it, no one acknowledges it. And so I really wanted to tie that in with faith because when you're very sad, upset, going through things, you feel like super like down. You're in like this dark hole, all alone, scared, struggling, and you don't know what to do. But there's always a light at the top of the hole or at the end of the tunnel, and you realize like that's your faith. That's what you have. That's what you have a choice on, either like continuing and trying to better yourself, or to you either just stay in that hole and just like everything else around you just basically crushes you. And so I wanted to incorporate that with my experiences because I've been through that path. I've been through like different experiences where I felt like all of those different things. So I wanted people to realize like we have to open our eyes and realize like what's actually happening in front of us, and we actually have to take a stand on what's right from wrong, and how mental health is super big in our religion. And they actually, it does talk about it and how we need to like make sure that we're all okay overall.
Definitely, that's such an important thing to think about.
Yeah, and especially like when I personally was reading your book, it wasn't one thing that I really liked was it wasn't all serious. You kind of like slipped in like little like I found myself giggling. You're like, oh, but you didn't hear that from me, you know. So it was like a really cool experience reading your book. It was very relatable. It was very honest, and you were being vulnerable, and that was like such a beautiful thing, like an admirable thing. So it was like a cool experience reading your book.
Thank
So,
you.
so we wanted to end off this interview by asking you and leaving our listeners with your favorite line or poem in The Sunflower's Moon.
Yay! I actually saved it because I was like, okay, I know it. Like I know it by heart, but I don't want to mess up. So I'm just gonna pull it up really quickly. You guys give me 1 second. It's actually my favorite poem. And everyone always asks me like, why this one? Why not like a different one or a longer one or something that's more meaningful? And so I'm just like, no, I really like it because it's like a mysterious type of poem. Like I'll read it and then like I'll elaborate on it. But um it says, "What chance did we have? You were the moon, as I was the ocean. You pulled me closer to you, causing both the rising and falling of me." And so basically, I really like that poem because it relates to, having certain friends or people in your life, and you might think that they're very good for you, that you're in a very good time, you're on the peak of your life, and you're like, oh wow, like I have the ideal friends that I've always wanted. These people are really good for me, and then you realize like all these like bad things are happening because of these people. Even though you don't want to let go of them because they mean so much to you, you're eventually going to let go of them because they're causing the falling of you. And I feel like a lot of people, especially as you get older, like when you're 19, 18 and heading to college, like you're going to realize like a lot of these people that you're hanging out with in high school and whatnot, you're not going to ideally take them with you to college, and everything's going to be changing, and it's a very scary time. It's very, uncertain, and it's just like, oh my God, like, am I really alone? What's going to happen? That sort of thing. And then you realize like who's actually really there for you and who actually cares about you, which is like the most important thing. And I really like that poem because I was going through a really hard time with like really close friends, and I had to pick and choose basically, like, should I, keep these people in my life even though they're hurting me in different ways, or should I just let them go and be alone for a little bit, right? And I feel like a lot of us have felt that in certain ways or certain scenarios. And I really like that because it's just like you know, a little saying, like, like it's just like the ocean and the moon. It causes, like, the rising and falling of both of us. Like, you might never know that, if anything, like, you might be hurting someone, but you are actually thinking that you're trying to raise this person up, but if anything, you might be hurting that person and causing them to crash down. So it works both ways. So I really like that because it's just an eye opener for all of us.
Yeah, it also like reminds you that everything is temporary and time, as you said earlier, time always moves on. So yeah, it was really beautiful. So
Really
Thank
has a
you.
deeper meaning.
You guys are so sweet. I love you guys.
oh,
We love you too.
thank you.
We wanted to thank you for coming on to the show today and having this interview with us.
And
Oh
we
my
also
God,
wanted
thank
to
you guys.
we also wanted to tell our listeners to check out your book, The Sunflower's Moon, which is available on Amazon. And also, we'll be having all the link for that information and your Instagram and everything, and our YouTube bio. And for our Instagram, we will let you guys know. So, once again, it's Umaymah.
And Hajar, reminding you that you can change the world. Welcome to One Girl at a Time, a podcast for girls, by girls, with girls. I'm Hajar.
And I'm Umaymah, and we are here to spotlight on the power that girls have in this world.
We appreciate everyone for taking the time to listen to our podcast today.
For today, we're starting something new. This episode is going to be number 1 of a 3-part series called Mending the Self, where we'll be talking about the mind, body, and soul.
But before we do that, let's hop into our mini segment, Our World at a Glance.
For today's episode, we'll be talking about an issue that's very prevalent in our world, homelessness.
Homelessness is a really big deal in a lot of countries, and especially now due to COVID, a lot of people have lost their jobs, and some have even, resulting in losing their jobs, have lost their homes. And it's really sad to see,
Yeah, and almost 150 million people are homeless all around the world, and people are living in cars, shelters, and abandoned buildings. So it's really a big problem.
Some people don't even have the opportunity to find those places, so they're stuck on the street. I remember maybe 2, 3 years ago, I went on a trip to California to visit my family, and we also decided to take a fun trip to LA. And LA is super glamorous, Hollywood, everything.
Yeah.
So my family actually did go to the Walk of Fame, since that is a big attraction there. And we went, and on the Walk of Fame, we actually saw a lot of homeless people. Like, there were so many people lining the streets. Like, if you turned this corner, there were maybe a ton of them on cardboard. And it was really sad to see, knowing the privilege I had to be only there on vacation, have a roof over my head. And me being almost 12 or 11, I did want to do something about it. I did feel really bad. But what does a 12-year-old have? No money, definitely not. So after seeing like people after people with no homes on that street alone, like that Walk of Fame, I sort of became desensitized. I was like, there's nothing I could do for them.
And I
So
don't think it's only you. I feel like since homelessness is a really big problem in big cities like LA, you'll see one side of the city that's full of wealth and the other side where there's people under bridges and things. So I feel like because people are so used to seeing that type of image, they don't really they really don't feel anything anymore after seeing that for such a long time in their lives.
Especially now, like after seeing all of that and becoming desensitized, I feel like I have a lack of empathy, and maybe a lot of other people might relate to me and also lack empathy now.
Yeah, and as humans, we need to actively practice empathy. That is what makes us human. So, what are some ways that we can help? One way is donating clothes, and helping out at local shelters.
You can also volunteer, volunteer at those shelters, fundraise, there are organizations that work actively to help homeless people. You can fundraise for those organizations. You can become a part of those organizations.
Yeah,
And really, it's just important to try and make a difference in the world.
yeah, being a part of something that is bigger than yourself is really
Yep.
important. So we encourage you guys to go out there and make a change.
Yes. So that concludes our World at a Glance segment.
Yes, and this episode will be talking about taking care of the mind. And I think it's especially important because as girls, high school girls, we have so many things that are on top of our heads. Like we have to think about college and volunteering and all these things. And it's hard to have like a social life and balance everything out. So, a result of that is, according to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, over 2/3 of teenagers taking antidepressants are girls, and that's like a really big problem.
2/3, that's a lot of
Yeah.
people. Like, that's a big majority. And with the mind, what includes the mind is your emotional well-being. And there are a lot of things that affect your emotional well-being. One of those things is social media.
Yeah, and just how, things in your life affect how you feel, meaning if you feel sad, happy, or even, have feelings of apathy, and, that type of things, it really does affect and has a big toll on our motivation and our, purpose, I guess. And try to find things in life that, trying to find meaning in life and just time for yourself.
Yeah, so it does affect, one of the things it does affect is your relationships with people. If you're always in a bad mood, if you're always tired, if you always lack motivation, obviously you're gonna lack the motivation, the energy to talk to people, to interact with your family, your friends, and that may cause you to drift with them. It may cause them to feel like you're not putting in the effort for them.
Yeah, and just problems along the road. So it's really important to, sit down and kind of think through about how you're feeling in that present moment and really taking the time to focus on the present, as it is in the name. It's a present, it's a gift. Time, time is very important. Once you lose it, you don't get it back.
So some things that affect our emotional well-being are social media. It can affect you positively or negatively. In the positive aspects, it can affect you. You can have a social emotional support group. You can have like your mood board, something that lifts your mood because it's so aesthetic and calming.
Yeah, and I personally have a mood board, and I find like inspiration and like to kind of, it is called a mood board, so you kind of set the mood for like the day or like, however you want to feel in that moment of your life. So it's really important to kind of just analyze your feelings.
Definitely. And negatively, it can affect you. Like people are bullying you, people are throwing terrible jokes at you, your self-image, your self-esteem. Of course, we all see those supermodels on Instagram, and you're just
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I wish I was them all the time.
The important thing is to realize what you're feeling is normal and not really, put yourself in a place that is, at the bottom. Really just look at it in a neutral view and just focus on yourself.
And the last thing that we believe plays a big factor in your emotional well-being is your relationships in your life. It can be a family relationship, it can be friendships, And sometimes those friendships might be super toxic. You can have friends belittling you, throwing insulting jokes, and being like, I was just joking. But that is not something you need in your life. And you need to know when to let go of it.
Yeah, really just look at all the relationships that you have in your life and see what it contributes to your well-being. So if you have a friend that's acting negative, then you need to cut them off because they're not doing anything helpful for you. And we've discussed about this in our past episode, the effects and the influence of social media. I hope you guys check it out. It's our third episode, and we touched upon those things. And it's really just important to kind of just see how it affects you.
Definitely. So cut out those toxic people. I know it's hard they might start drama, stir drama. Yeah, we know. I've been
Yeah.
through it. And trust me, you'll feel a weight lift off your shoulders when you get rid of them and start focusing on the people in your life who make a positive impact.
And who are important to you. Yes, yeah.
People who uplift you, who support you, who are always there for you. You might not have those people now, but over time you will find them. And another thing is your family relationships. I know a lot of us just want to stay cooped up in our rooms all day, ignore our siblings. If we have siblings, ignore our parents, or it might be vice versa and our parents ignore us or our siblings ignore us. But don't let it get to you. If you're being ignored, don't let it have a big impact on you. Tell yourself it's not that deep. It's not going to affect me severely. And yeah.
We want to move on to how we can improve our emotional well-being. One thing is coming up with a routine and being consistent with it. So waking up early, even though it might be hard at first, really do take the small steps and really just, have the intention to wake up early before you go to sleep and just really work on the small things so you can make big differences in your daily life. So, start working up as soon as you wake up or start practicing journaling while, just writing down what you want to do and the things that you want to see throughout the day and just goals. So that's really important to do. Just coming up with a routine and being consistent with it.
What Umaymah said about coming up with a routine is definitely super important. Like she mentioned, waking up early. Say you wake up at 2 p.m. now. I know at one point during this year, I would wake up at 2 p.m. every single day. But slowly I started setting goals for myself like, oh, I wake up at 2 p.m. every day. I know it's going to be hard to wake up at 7 a.m. all of a sudden. Like, that's a big change. So my goal was to wake up an hour earlier than 2 p.m., like 1 p.m. And then I slowly built up. Like I said, 2 p.m., go back to 10 a.m. waking up. And then I decided, oh, let me try start waking up at 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. So just build up towards waking up earlier. If it's hard now, you can eventually get there.
Yeah, and when you have like a routine that you stick with and be consistent with, you'll be able to, develop good habits. Like you said, waking up early, taking it slow by slow is really important because then you'll see the benefits in the long run.
Another thing we recommend incorporating into your routines is exercise because it's a physical way to improve your mind, clear your mind. For some people, I know exercise is like that one time out of your day to take a break, just focus on yourself. And I know like a lot of people like are embarrassed to work out. Like I know like for me personally, like I will work out in my room and then if somebody comes in, I'll pretend I wasn't working out just cuz like I don't know what it is. Like I don't want people to know I'm working out. But exercise, like try, even if like you're always getting interrupted, at least put in the effort to try and work out. And slowly, like it'll become part of your daily habits and it's gonna help you have a clearer mind. It'll help you be more motivated. And it will also keep you in shape, healthy. Like
Yep,
if
yeah.
if that's something you've been wanting and looking towards, like trying to work towards, exercise is a great way to do that.
And I think everyone should take part in exercising daily. It's really important, not only for your body, but also your mind. Like you said earlier, it helps clear your mind and you really are able to focus on yourself. Like she said, just taking the time out of your day to really just put an effort into building yourself and bettering yourself. And something else I wanted to add on was analyzing your current self. So one thing I think is very important is just to look at yourself in a neutral way. So look at your bad habits and your good habits, but don't make yourself think about it too much where you develop negative emotions on and thinking about the bad things that you're bad at. So just really look at yourself from an outside perspective and kind of just look at it like no good, no bad, just neutral. And just see yourself for who you really are, and you'll be able to, whether it may be like writing down a list of characteristics that you want to embody, you want to change yourself. And one thing that I mentioned to Hajar earlier was, our experiences and our knowledge that we've acquired at this moment is what makes us us. So I don't really believe in finding yourself, but you'll be able to create yourself. I believe in creating yourself. So just making good choices that lead to good opportunities and experiences, and really just being positive and being in a positive mindset is going to really help you just work on yourself and just analyze yourself.
And another thing, like Umaymah said, like those experiences, and we're not saying all those experiences were good. Like some of those experiences were bad. Like those bad experiences have made you who you are today. Like I would not be here. I know for a fact I would not be here without the bad experiences in my life, because they were equally as important as the good ones. Like being bullied, struggling with my self-image, those things made me who I am today. Like coming on here, they were really important things, really important factors in me as a person.
Yeah, and it's important to learn that you shouldn't dwell on it, all these things, and look at the bigger picture of your life. Or is this going to affect me in the long run? Like, no, you need to see the bigger picture and just kind of like see past through all of that. So yeah, it's important. And one thing I want to talk about is also practicing detachment. So looking at yourself and the things that you have. Life is so short and temporary. We're not going to have everything forever. So it's just important to be grateful for everything that you have currently in your life and not being attached to everything, because attachment does lead to like negative emotions, because they'll feel like, oh, I need this. Like, no, I don't need my phone. I can leave it and go to the park and walk around or something.
Yeah, so detach from those materialistic possessions, money, your phone, your house. I know, like, we don't own our houses, our parents do, but still.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, none of that is gonna matter. The amount of money you have, if you live in a big house or not, if you have the latest phone, none of those things are going to matter compared to if you were a good person, if you were genuine, if you were sincere. That's what people are going to remember about you the most, if you made a difference in the world.
Yeah, I'm mentioning back to the sincere part. It's important to be sincere to not only others, but yourself. Being honest and just, being grateful and just practicing gratefulness. I can't stress that enough.
Gratefulness is the most important aspect of almost everything. I have this food and this ties back into our World at a Glance segment, like homelessness, like being grateful for having a roof over your head, being grateful to have food, being grateful to have a parent or even both parents together, being grateful for clothes.
Yeah, and if you're in a bad place, you might not be able to see all these things around you. And that's why it's important to kind of take yourself out there and like, no, I have something that I'm grateful for. I have something that I'm happy that I have, So it's really important.
Definitely. So always keep that in mind. And thank you for tuning in today. Welcome to One Girl at a Time, a podcast for girls, by girls, with girls. I'm Hajar.
And I'm Umaymah, and we are here to spotlight on the power that girls have in this world.
For this episode's World at a Glance, we wanted to talk about Black History Month because, as you all know, it is February.
Yeah, and it is one of the important celebratory months in America. We highlight the actions and bravery of the African Americans.
Since we are a podcast that empower girls, and young women, we wanted to speak about some Black women in honor of Black History Month.
Yeah, one influential woman is Daisy Bates. She was a civil rights hero and journalist who played a huge role in leading the Little Rock integration crisis of 1957, which was a crisis that occurred in 1957 after a group of nine African American students enrolled in Little Rock Central High School.
I'm sure you've all heard of May Carroll Jemison at one point in your lives. She is an African American engineer, physician, and former NASA astronaut. She became the first Black woman to travel into space when she served as a mission specialist aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour.
We want to encourage you all to maybe take some time out of your day to learn something new about Black History Month, whether it be about one of the many figures, amazing figures, a simple fact, or just the history behind it.
And with that, we conclude our World at a Glance segment. In today's episode, we will be talking with Izza Rafiq, the entrepreneur and co-founder of Arenda Media, a magazine that helps bring attention to creators through a digital platform.
Welcome to One Girl at a Time podcast, Izza. It is such a pleasure to have you on our show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Same here. So before we get into Arenda Media, we want you to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm 17 years old. I'm a senior at South Lake Carroll High School. My name is Izza, and I don't know, I love photography. I love true crime. I love traveling. I miss that a lot, especially because of COVID. I've loved photography, been into it since I was, I think in 2015, so almost 6 years now. And I started doing it professionally about 2 years ago, but before I would like take my camera to parties and dinners and when hanging out with friends just to like, take pictures for fun. And then recently I started my own digital media company called Arenda Media. And so in that we do different digital projects like Arenda Magazine. We recently are developing a podcast network and we do different digital projects. And are starting to look into like the advertising aspect of digital media as well.
So, of course, you told us about your company, Arenda Media, but what initially led you to creating it?
So originally I had the idea kind of in the back of my mind last year, in the very beginning of last year. And when COVID hit, I really wanted to do something with the photography that I was doing. So I took my cousin and we went to like a nearby park in our neighborhood and we took a couple pictures and I kind of looked at the requirements that Vogue Italia has and kind of just like looking at how to submit photos to Vogue specifically. And when I couldn't figure out like a platform that would allow me to do that or finding different magazines to gain more professional experience, I knew I always had the idea of having like a digital company in the back of my head. And then with all of that going on, I kind of just took action, I guess, and created my own digital media magazine through that. And when I kind of knew that I wanted to do this magazine, I thought of different digital like projects that I could possibly be doing and started Arenda Media specifically so I could do the different aspects of digital projects, whether that be photography or videography or podcasting, etc.
That's so cool. I like how that you didn't see a platform that accepted things like that, so you made your own. How did you come up with the name of your company?
It is very unique.
So
Yeah.
thank you. It's actually a really funny story. I kind of just searched up cool words straight into Google and I filtered through all of that and I wrote down a list of words that I really liked. And then I went through and kind of saw like what encompasses the idea of like how I wanted to start the media company specifically. So the word Arenda kind of stuck out to me because it means like a power within you to change your life and the world around you, the people around you. And I wanted something that could express creativity in someone else's life, regardless whether you do like an art form, or you do like entrepreneurship, or whatever you do as the passion, if that has impacted your life in a positive manner, I kind of wanted a word that would encompass that whole thing. And so the word is pretty versatile, and it kind of fit everything that I envisioned the company itself to be like.
When did you realize that starting a digital media company was something that you definitely wanted to do?
When I launched my first magazine back in August, I like a little bit before that, I think 3 weeks before that, I posted a TikTok, just like asking for photographers from anywhere in the world, like, would you be willing to put your art into this platform? You know, it'll give them more of an exposure to different people, different audiences. And so putting all that together, going through the whole process of like creating the company itself and then networking specifically, I enjoyed that whole process of it. And I was like, this is something that I'm really passionate about. It's something that I didn't feel forced to doing it. It's something that I kind of did on my own. And as I worked more on it, I kind of fell more in love with it. And I felt a lot more like myself, not something that like someone forced me into doing, especially with someone like me. Like, I'm a Muslim Pakistani American. There's not a lot of people in the media industry specifically who are like that. And I kind of felt it felt nice to kind of go against that norm of, oh, you have to be like an engineer or a doctor or something. And it didn't feel like I was forced into doing that. And it was something I like thoroughly enjoyed doing. So
Yeah, I representation is really important, and you are like making a big difference, and your company is super cool. We've actually taken a look at your website a couple of times, and I just love all the magazines you've put out, all the covers. They're just gorgeous. And I actually did see the TikTok you were mentioning, and I'm really proud of what you've done. It's really amazing, like, to
thank
see
you.
one of us doing something super like out there, and like, putting in the effort, putting in the work.
And being something that you always dreamed of seeing. So that's like amazing.
And
Thank you.
so
Oh, I can't take all the credit. It does go to like people who do submit to the magazine as well.
Yeah.
definitely. What are some of the ups and downs? Like, I'm sure like you're a senior, so like there's school to balance and juggle, as well as being the founder and working on the magazine itself or the company. So
Yeah, so I feel like the ups more outweigh the downs. But like two things that are kind of difficult is definitely like getting this whole thing to get off the road and actually like get it started. So originally it was just me. I started the idea, I reached out to people. Getting everything working was like the most difficult part, especially because at the time I like ended my junior year of high school. I was doing summer classes. And so it was a lot to try and balance just by myself. And now there's like a few more people who are on the team, so it's not like everything's on my shoulders. But definitely that was the main part that was really difficult to deal with. And then trying to get everyone who is currently on the team on the same page is because when I posted that TikTok, there were people from, across the globe who saw it. And so we have people on our photography team who are from different countries. We have some from Mexico, Australia, New Zealand, Germany. And so trying to get everyone on the same page, to try and follow like a timeline, that's kind of been a bit difficult to deal with. But something that's like really good about being like the founder, something that's helpful is being able to be in control of like the projects I put out, or like what goes into the magazine. We have like this rule where we don't put like nudity, or we don't put defamation, stuff like that. Something that could really be like triggering to an audience. Being able to see what goes into a project has been like really beneficial to make sure that things don't go out of control. And definitely meeting new people. Like this magazine, this company, the media itself has been able to give me so many different connections to people who do so many different things: publicists, artists, photographers, you guys who do like podcasting. It's really nice to be able to like see different people who come from different backgrounds and are doing different things, all kind of like join forces, I guess, to create a project or put something out.
Definitely, I agree. I We both enjoy meeting new people as
Mm-hmm.
well. Like meeting you today wouldn't have been possible without your company. So that's really like exciting and
Yeah, and I agree to what you said. Like, I kind of I bet like both of us can relate to you when you said like reaching out to people and things to seeing different people, and it is really refreshing because everyone's so motivated, and
Hmm.
everyone's just positive and just like seeing people like you and us and just reaching out, and it's just such a cool atmosphere. I would say.
we actually want
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
we actually wanted to ask you, what's your favorite issue of
Yeah.
your magazine?
Oh, so this one's like interesting because each issue to me has like some sort of aspect to it that I really like, really, I guess, feel passionate about. Obviously, the first one was like the first issue that I put out, but it was also the one with like the most submissions, the most people where I met so many cool artists and photographers and writers. And then the December issue that we put out, it was titled Reverie. um, or no, the December one we put out was titled About Time, and it was based off the Met Gala theme for 2020. So it was fashion through history, and it was the shoot that I personally did a bunch of shoots for that. And I met a lot of people through that. I did a lot of networking through that. And then the January one, which was titled Reverie, was like a dreamlike type of theme. So it was really cool seeing everyone's interpretation of that theme specifically. It was also the first studio shoot that I did. So I think there's every issue that I put out has something that was like the first for me or some element that I really like enjoy doing. But favorite overall would definitely be the one that we're releasing this month in February. I got to interview a lot of people, a lot of artists and musicians about their career, and I met a lot of like really cool people through doing that. And then uh, kind of like the shoot that we did, me personally, with one of my friends. We did a music video inspired shoot where we shot our own version of a music video, and then uh, we also took like pictures based off the music video. Um, so I think like the one that I'm putting out right now is definitely something that holds a lot of value to me, but each theme really just has something that's really cool about it that I thoroughly enjoy. Like I enjoyed putting it together and I enjoyed the whole process of it overall.
You said the themes are all different, yeah. And you want everyone to kind of just be in a place where they can, share all the their expertise and everything. What is like one thing that you want to kind of keep consistent? Like what message do you want your readers um to see when in each issue of the magazine?
Definitely inclusivity. That's like a huge factor in this whole media company itself. Like yes, including like race, ethnicity, religion, gender, etc., but also just making it a place for creatives, regardless of like your professional experience, to gain experience and go out of your comfort zone to try new styles with each different theme. So we try not to repeat each theme because we want to like give each creative an aspect where they can interpret something based on their own style but also try something that they possibly didn't do before. um, and then definitely making the whole place just inclusive overall. For me, the whole starting factor for this was trying to find something that would allow me starting out professionally to gain experience, gain exposure, and get published. And that whole process of doing that is the main factor of why this whole thing started. And with our podcast, we're starting a few with like different messages behind them. So hopefully people can take something out from that. So we have one that's targeted towards like first generation Americans, one that's targeted towards people who like changed their lives, what the whole business stands for basically. We have one that's about like entrepreneurship and personal growth, and then another that's about like true crime, specifically cases that aren't put into the public media, so giving them more exposure. Trying to bring to light all of these different people from different backgrounds and making this whole environment something that they're comfortable around, but also giving them that whole platform to put their work onto.
That your message of inclusivity is something like we find really important too.
Yeah.
It's part of one of the reasons why we started this podcast, because we wanted a platform for not only Muslims and young girls, but like teens who are always like, oh, you're too young to do this, oh, like you're a teen, you don't know
Yeah.
anything. So that's why like that's really important to us as well, and it like really means a lot.
Yeah, to see someone like you and us kind of just, racist, seeing someone like you really going out there and really trying your best to, show such a strong message is really important. And I feel like, especially with our society today, it's something that needs to be like more just out there.
Agreed, yeah.
So this concludes our interview. We wanted to thank you for coming here today, interviewing, like letting us interview you, speaking with us, Do you have
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun, and it was really nice to get to talk to you guys too.
Same here,
Definitely.
likewise. Check out Isra Rafiq's magazine, Orenda, at Orenda Media on Instagram. We'll be linking all that in our description, and we'll be posting it on our social media.
So make sure to check it out. Our Instagram is at OGAT Podcast. Feel free to send us a DM, feedback, and if you have anything you would like to tell us, also feel free to email us at OGAT at OGAT Podcast at mooddeltaalpha.org. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye. Welcome to One Girl at a Time, a podcast for girls, by girls, with girls. I'm Hajar.
And I'm Umaymah, and we are here at the spotlight on the power that girls have in this world.
For this episode's Our World at a Glance segment, we wanted to spread awareness on a certain issue, which is world hunger.
In a world where we produce enough food for everyone, more than 690 million people go to bed hungry every night, according to the Food Aid Foundation.
There are so many people around the world suffering from world hunger, and you might wonder, what are some of the causes?
Some of the causes, poverty being the main one. There are factors like demographics, societal, and political, and many others like factors that contribute to hunger.
Hunger causes suffering, poor health, malnutrition, and it's an issue that continues to rise.
On the report of World Vision, an additional 83 to 132 million people are expected to be chronically hungry due to the pandemic. So, how can we help?
Of course, we don't want to just tell you about this without no
Call to action?
no solution. So some of the ways you can help is donate money to foundations that support the cause.
Another way is that you can support your local food banks by volunteering and even donating food.
Yep, donating food. Or you can hold your own drive instead of having people donate. You are the one that people donate to. And you can also do them virtually. There are many resources online that you can research. And
another way is by simply spreading the awareness on your social media.
I know that's something like that. It really does help. It put in the effort, like share it with people who, if you don't have the ability to, share with people who do have the ability to hold those drives, to donate to people. And it does make a big difference. Trust me. And now that concludes
Our World at a Glance.
We want to continue our Mending the Self series in this episode by talking about the next part, the body.
So it's extremely important to take care of our bodies because too much or too little of something can cause complications. And by listening to our bodies, we will be able to live a healthy and long life.
First off, we have to start by learning what our bodies do and do not like. We have to learn how to take care of the body in every aspect. And some of those things is the products you use, the food, and some things that can be harmful towards you. Say, for example, what lotion is best for you. Like some people have super dry skin, so they might need to use a lotion that's more hydrating. Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people have super oily skin, so they don't want to use something that's so hydrating because they already have like their own body producing oils. So why would they want to add on to that? But they still need like that little layer of hydration that lotion provides, which is still very important. An example is like skincare. Like I have a combination skin, so I can't use a product that's specific only for dry skin, but at the same time I can't use something that's for oily skin as well because my skin is a combination of dry and oily. And next on to food.
Yes, it's really important to know what foods your body will accept. Sometimes you might be allergic to something, or even a lot of people have problems from drinking milk or lactose products. So it's really important to understand that not everyone's body is the same, and we really need to be more mindful of the things we eat, the things we use, so that we know like which products to use and things like that.
Like regarding the food, like even like it might be that you're allergic to the food. It just might be that your body doesn't react well to the food. Like I know for me, if I have too much sugar, my skin will break out. I know a lot of us like diet is one of the most important things when it comes to skincare, but also like for the well-being of your body and your health as well. And another thing is what causes pain and discomfort. Like there are certain things that other people might be able to do that you might not be able to do because it causes you pain and discomfort. And just because they're able to do it doesn't mean that you should do it as well. Even if you really want to, like you have to like listen to your body. Like if your body is telling you no, then just listen. Like sleeping like at 3 a.m. Like some people like their body can manage that, but if you get headaches or stuff, don't like when you're tired, just sleep.
Yeah, listen to your body. We'll be talking about sleep further in this episode, but before that, we wanted to talk about exercising. And I know probably like everyone's just like, oh, we're in quarantine, we don't need to do that or anything. Or maybe if you want to because summer is coming up and things like that. But honestly, regular exercise can just have a ton of benefits.
According to the CDC, exercising regularly helps with cognitive activity, anxiety, depression, quality of life, and sleep.
It also reduces your health risk, so exercising helps by lowering your blood pressure and even helps improve cholesterol levels.
There are exercises that target specific areas, so if you have trouble with balance or flexibility, you're able to improve those with regular exercise. Exercise is something that you should implement. Like you don't have to go out and do like a 20-minute ab workout if that's not for you. It can be as simple as taking a 20-minute to 30-minute walk every day because it improves blood flow and it just like clears your mind, really.
Yeah, just get out there and anything, just movement really does help. I know not everyone, like I said, enjoys exercising, but some motivation. For example, for me, what keeps me going is like the idea that I want to like learn how far I can like push my body, like how strong can I be, and like you'll never know if you don't start. So that's some motivation. It can be different for you. Just try to find out what helps you to keep going.
And it's not only about motivation, like people say, oh, I don't have the motivation to do it. It's also about self-discipline. Like you discipline yourself to do it every day. You know, like, oh, I'm too tired to do it. But you tell yourself, I have to do this for myself, for my well-being. And it's all about your mindset, really.
Yeah, sometimes you'll wake up and you won't do it, but once you do it after your workout, you feel so much more refreshed.
And accomplished too. Like you feel super accomplished that you did it. And that's like you're proud of yourself. Like think of the benefits of after doing it than like the tiredness and fatigue you feel from not doing it at all, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
And that goes into our next point.
Yeah, so eating clean and well. So you don't have to go on like a whole diet, but it is important for you to, have a clean diet and just know what is best for your body, like what your body needs.
There are 4 groups: carbs, healthy fats. I think, is it carbs, healthy fats, vegetables, and fruits. And it's just, you don't have to be like, oh, no sugar, no nothing, like no carbs. Like, don't restrict yourself, because that makes you even more stressed. But just
Make
try to
sure.
portion. Like, personally, I try to have at least 1 vegetable a day, even if I'm not like, I know I'm not super healthy, but I try to have 1 vegetable a day. I try to make sure I have a lot of water, and those little things like make the biggest difference.
Yeah, and it's just like, honestly, it's just making sure that you're just the majority of what you're taking in is good for you. So like no foods that are too salty or too sweet.
And
I
you'll
mean,
learn to love it,
yeah.
honestly. Like, I used to when I first started off like trying to eat healthy, like one of the things, like avocado, I knew that like that was a craze on the internet at one point, like avocado toast, avocado this, avocado that, like. But like slowly, like I learned to like love avocado, because it just like having that 1 avocado a day makes me feel so much healthier and so much better. Like, it just makes me feel like I've accomplished something in terms of eating, even if it's like just 1 avocado. Like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, but to me it is something. Like, it feels accomplishing, and I'm fine with that. Like, that 1 avocado a day, like having that is enough for me to feel accomplished, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. For me, I don't personally like eggs, but I've been trying to kind of like implement that into like my diet. So I in the morning I'll eat like mashed potatoes with eggs and like something else, just to kind of fuel my body in the mornings. Honestly, it doesn't like eating clean and well doesn't mean that you're cutting something entirely out of your diet. It just means that you're choosing your foods with more intention and that you're being mindful and you're just making more healthy choices.
And another thing is like mending the self. I really want to explain that. Like, you have to work towards self improvement, and the things we're listing for you are ways to work towards self improvement. We're not forcing it on you, but if you're given the advice and the help, I would definitely recommend taking it.
Yeah, we're here to help, and we created this series just for our listeners to have something that they can take from and really like find useful tips that they can implement in their days.
Definitely. And that brings us on to our last point, which I think is the most important. I myself need to implement in my life: sleep. It's really important. I know that. I haven't really been implementing it.
Yeah, nothing should get in the way of sleeping. That's how our body like replenishes itself, and it's really how our body like heals itself. So sleep is really, really, really important.
If we have too little sleep, it can affect our bodies negatively, like our brain, lack of concentration. And according to a study done by the Mental Health Foundation, people who don't get enough sleep are more likely to suffer from lack of concentration.
Another body part that is affected negatively by lack of sleep is your heart. You're more likely to pass away due to heart disease, and that's something really big. So, a study was done by the University of Warwick, and they found that receiving less than 6 hours of sleep every day on a daily basis creates a 48% chance of passing away due to heart disease, and you are more like 15% more likely to develop a stroke, so that's very serious.
And the last thing that little sleep affects is your immune system. Believe it or not, it is found that there is a correlation between the amount of sleep you get and your immune system. So if you sleep less, your immune system gets weaker. And of course, like, we're in the middle of a pandemic,
Exactly.
there's a virus, so our bodies need to be strong enough to fight things like that. I know that, like, even like the flu, like, your immune system needs to be at its peak. So that's why sleep is so important.
Yeah. On to our last point. We want to emphasize that everyone is different, everyone's body is different. So you shouldn't really compare yourself to others and really understand yourself.
Give your body love by taking care of it. Self-love is the best love,
Yeah.
period.
And you should always think positively towards your body because your mind creates kind of your reality. So it's important to kind of have positive thoughts all the time. And another thing that we want to emphasize is being grateful for having a certain body part. Like, some people don't have hands or arms, and some people don't have the ability to move. So if you are blessed with that, then I think you should be extremely grateful and that we should all take care of our bodies.
I think one thing I want you guys to take away from today's episode is look in the mirror and think of one body part you love and you're grateful for.
Yeah, I think you should. I think we mentioned this in the last Mending the Self episode, the first one, was really to appreciate yourself and
Yes.
be grateful. Yeah. So once again, it's Umaymah.
And Hajar, reminding you that you can change the world.
Connect with us on our social media platforms.
Link below. And if you would like to be featured or have a question for us, send us an email at ogatpodcast@mudeltaalpha.org. We'd love to hear from you.
And keep being amazing.
We'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Welcome to One Girl at a Time, a podcast for girls, by girls, with girls. I'm Hajar.
And I'm Umaymah, and we are here to spotlight on the power that girls have in this world.
For this episode's World at a Glance, we wanted to talk about Women's History Month.
It is one of the important celebratory months here in America, and we highlight the contributions of women in history. And even though this episode will be probably released after March has ended, we still wanted to include it in our World at a Glance.
Especially since we are a podcast that empowers girls and young women, we wanted to speak about some amazing young women that work to create change in history.
One influential woman is Grace Hopper, who earned her PhD in mathematics in 1934 and helped develop a compiler that was a precursor to the widely used COBOL language, which is a computer programming language for business uses. Hopper also became a rear admiral in the U.S. Navy.
Another important woman we feel isn't very widely talked about is Fatima al-Fihri, who was the first actually to found a university in the year 859 named the University of Al-Qawariya, located in Fez, Morocco.
We want to encourage you all to maybe take some time out of your day to learn about some influential women, female figures, and history for Women's History Month.
We also want to mention, since April 13th is the beginning of Ramadan, the month of Ramadan, a month where Muslims worldwide fast from sunset to sunrise, we want to say Ramadan Mubarak to all our Muslim listeners.
For our listeners who don't know about Ramadan, Ramadan is a holy month for us Muslims that we partake in. From dawn to dusk, we refrain from not only food and water, but also bad character. So smiling, saying good things, and helping others is extremely encouraged. So we encourage you to learn about the topic online, or if you have a friend, a Muslim friend, please, you can ask them if you want to.
And with that, we conclude our World at a Glance segment. Now, in this episode, we will be talking to Bushra Amiwala, the youngest Muslim holding public office in the country.
Welcome to One Girl at a Time podcast, Bushra. It is a pleasure to have you on our show.
Hi, ladies. Thank you both so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Likewise. So before we kind of get into details, for our listeners who don't know about you, could you please tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Bushra Amiwala. I am based out of Chicago, Illinois. I just graduated from DePaul University in Chicago as well. I work at Google as my day job from 9 to 5. And then outside of that, I serve on the Board of Education for Skokie School District 73 and a half, and was elected in April 2019, making me the youngest Muslim elected official in the United States.
Amazing. Were you always such an ambitious leader?
That is such a good question. I actually was a super shy child growing up. But the ongoing joke in my family was that since I'm the first person in my family born in the United States, I would be eligible to be president if I ever wanted to. So I feel like that ambition was always integrated and incorporated within that. And it definitely was sparked in high school for sure.
Following, you said like the president, but what initially led you to being interested in politics?
That is such a good question. So I was involved with 5 different nonprofit organizations the 5 days of the week and found that the best way to make long-term practical change is through public policy. So as a result, I took an AP Government and Politics class my senior year of high school, and through that class decided to work for a US Senator at the time. And it was someone on that campaign that saw leadership ability and potential in me that I definitely didn't see in myself at the time. And someone on that campaign asked me to run for public office, and the rest is history.
Wow, what? So that's how you kind of got into like joining public office. That's so cool. When did you realize that, being a part of, public office and involved in politics was definitely something that you wanted to do?
I think even though I was running for office that first time, I was 19 years old. I was a freshman in college, so still didn't have a firm understanding as to what I had gotten myself into. To be truthfully honest, I kind of was going with the flow, seeing what was to come and everything of that sort. And I lost my election the first time I ran for office. And the person that I ran for office against actually encouraged me to run for office again. And it was with his sort of motivation and his like leadership ability, right, and that potential that he saw in me that encouraged and inspired me to run for office again. So I think it was the second time I ran for office, and after I got elected, when I was like, wow, like I love this. Public service is very enjoyable to me. It's a great way to make an impact. And I think it was getting elected that second time that really solidified the belief for me.
You said you lost the first time, but you were able to win. The second time you ran, how did it feel to that loss versus that being winning the second time?
Yeah, so I actually cried both election nights. I cried the night that I lost, and I cried the night that I won. So both were very emotional nights for sure, because each night it was a year's worth of hard work that you saw come to fruition, right? Whether they be translated through a loss or a win. And I think it was really hard for me to cope with the loss for sure. I didn't really know like what I was going to do after that. Like I thought that was it for me when it came to politics and stuff. But I'm glad that I picked myself back up and did it again a second time.
That is definitely very motivational, I think.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, like, who do you feel were your biggest supporters, like, that helped you push through those times the most?
Yeah. My biggest supporters were definitely my friends and my family, for sure. My parents, actually, when I first told them that I wanted to run for office, my dad was super excited. He was super just like, yes, go do it. Like, I can't wait to see you do this. Like, you got this. Like, let me know how I can help. And my mom was very taken aback, and she was like, no. That's all she had to say. She was like, no, no, no. Like, I don't think you should do this. But her also became my biggest support system as well after I decided to announce that I wanted to run for public office and everything of that sort. So they were the ones that were with me during the lowest of the lows and the highest of the highs. And I think that running for office twice and getting a lot of really exciting media attention, I definitely had a lot of temporary friends that came into my life as well. So I learned a lot about who's temporary, who has the best intentions for you, who doesn't, things of that sort.
Throughout all of this, I bet that you experienced so many emotions, but what were some of the feelings that you felt when you were officially sworn into public office? Help us kind of set the scene for our listeners.
Sure. So let's see, I was 21 years old. I was a junior in college, and I had just gotten elected 2 weeks prior and was sworn in 2 weeks after I got elected. And this was in April 2019. And my parents came with me, and a bunch of neighbors and supporters and people who voted for me came to the swearing in as well. And a lot of people brought me flowers, which I thought was so sweet. I love flowers. And everyone was just smiling and so excited. It was a beautiful spring day. And obviously we had to sort of put our right hand, not on a Bible, but like on the Quran. And we had to read just a recitation of oaths that was, for example, like I solemnly swear that I'm not doing this for like monetary reasons or for financial gain. And you just have to make your interests and stuff like that clear, which I thought was really cool and powerful.
We know we know you are you know you are on the Board of Education, the Skokie Board of Education, and you are the youngest seat there and also the youngest official in the country. How does it feel to be the youngest? Like, what are some difficulties you face?
That is such a good question, and one that I feel like I don't get asked enough. I think the most challenging part about all of this is that sometimes I'm too Muslim for mainstream American culture, and then I'm not Muslim enough for my Islamic identity and heritage. Because a lot of people, traditionally speaking, and I think in Pakistani culture in particular, don't appreciate a woman in politics. And I think that that's something that I'm still struggling with. Like, and that's the most challenging part. It's the cultural dissonance between what I want to do and what my goals and dreams are versus like what culturally like we're told is not expected. So that's, I think, a really challenging thing that we don't talk enough about. And then another thing that I find to be really challenging is that American media was obsessed with my identity. All they talked about was what I looked like, what I dressed like, the color of my lipstick, the color of my hijab. And that really distracted from my messaging and my campaign and my platform and policy ideas. So I think that was a huge challenge as well.
So now, on the contrary, what are some of your absolute favorite things about being in office?
Oh, yes. Such a good question. So I absolutely love that I'm able to make an impact and difference in the lives of people that have voted for me and even people who haven't voted for me or weren't my supporters, but I've been able to impact them in a positive way. So for example, on the Board of Education, we made sure that the bus system and school lunches and summer school would all be free of charge for all families as a result of COVID. So being able to alleviate that financial burden, I think, is something we're super proud of. And like you see the direct impact in the lives of families and students that you're serving. So things of that sort are impacts that we're able to make on the Board of Education. I've brought forth a piece of sort of like this new policy idea that we should have Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, and Diwali on the school calendar. So these 5 other major holidays that typically are not recognized by the school. So little things like that make a huge difference in the lives of our students who typically maybe have not been able to see themselves reflected in a certain realm or space. So I think it's been very rewarding to be able to see the impacts that I've been able to make on the board.
That is definitely very inspirational, and just having that diversity and representation for those students who have that one holiday that isn't on the school calendar, so they miss school. Like, I definitely like if I've experienced missing school because Eid al-Fitr isn't on the school calendar, so I've had to make up those days. So having you there, like, I would love to have you on the Board of Education in my district.
Yeah. It's amazing
That
that
is
you're
so
doing, sorry, but it's amazing that you're doing so many, like, you're working towards something and you're actually making things happen. So I think that it's so inspirational and it's so amazing.
That is so sweet. Thank you both so much. That means a lot. And it's been such an amazing conversation so far. You all have asked such thoughtful and lovely questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
We wanted to end off today's interview with what is something you would tell young girls that want to get into office that you wish you had been told yourself?
Yep.
Yeah, I think the best piece of advice I would give is invest in people and network, 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 and be the change you want to see in the world. You can make a difference and an impact in the lives of so many others if you just choose to step up to the plate, and the responsibility is yours. I think if someone told me that the responsibility was mine and that I hold the agency and the power to make an impact and a difference, then that would, be the greatest thing for myself.
That is really like, honestly, like when the first time I met you, like I've been like, it's been turning gears in my head, and now I'm like thinking when I get older, I do want to run for the Board of Education in my own district now. Thanks to you.
I love that. I love that so much. And you absolutely shouldn't. Even higher than the Board of Education. You should go for it.
I'm really looking forward to what the future holds.
Yeah. And it's when you said that you're able to take part, like, responsibility for what you can do, I think that's such an amazing message that I feel like not a lot of people actually talk about. Like, you have the responsibility as a person to do whatever you can do. And I think that's so amazing that you're telling our listeners and our viewers. So thank you so much.
Yeah, for having us.
Yeah, for being on this interview.
Thank you both. This was amazing. I had so much fun chatting with both of you. You two are very bright, lovely girls who are going to make a huge impact in this world, whether it be through your podcast or whatever path you two choose to go down. I can't wait to keep in touch and to follow both of your journeys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome to One Girl at a Time, a podcast for girls, by girls, with girls. I'm Hajar.
And I'm Umaymah, and we're here to spotlight on the power that girls have in this world.
For this episode's World at a Glance, we wanted to talk about Derek Chauvin's trial.
An African-American man by the name of George Perry Floyd Jr. was wrongfully killed by Minneapolis police while being accused of having a counterfeit bill. His death sparked millions of Black Lives Matters protests across the country calling for justice in May 2020.
Derek Chauvin, one of the four former Minneapolis police officers who are expected to stand trial in George Floyd's case, is the only one charged with murder. The trial began at 9 a.m. Monday, March 29th, and the entirety of the trial is expected to last 4 weeks.
As the trial goes on, please try your best to keep up with it and stay informed, as it is important in U.S. history as it involves police brutality against African Americans.
And with that concludes our World at a Glance segment. Now, on to our last and final episode of our Mending the Self series. In this episode, we wanted to talk about taking care of the soul. We've already talked about the body and the mind.
Now, the soul itself is debatable, and it's often seen as, or it's often spoken of as in a materialistic context, but it is also much more definitive when it comes to spiritual and religious traditions than it is in scientific concepts. So we will be describing it as one's consciousness towards or of themselves.
By being consciousness, we mean how can you make sure that you're taking care of yourself? How can you bring peace into your life? These questions are examples of how we want you to be conscious, and there are things we want you to ask yourself constantly. Like me, myself, like, how am I making sure I'm taking care of myself? I try to sleep on time, like in a good amount of time, and I try to do my skincare every other day because I feel like that's taking care of myself.
Yeah, and it's all about awareness. So by asking questions like this, you're able to really think about yourself and and it helps better understand yourself. And the first thing that we're going to be talking about is being in the present moment.
Being in the present moment is something we've highly emphasized during this series, and it's something that helps a lot. Like being in the present moment, like taking in what's around you. Say you're on a walk and you're listening to music. You're not in the present moment, you're listening to music. If you take out your earbuds and listen to like the chirps of the birds, like the breeze, if it's breeze or if it's like super hot, I don't know. Like just like taking in like what's around you is like really like beneficial and really important.
Yeah, and asking questions like, what am I feeling right now, and how am I feeling in this very moment, and like why or why not am I feeling this feeling? So you think about like what makes you happy, or who makes you happy, or what doesn't, and you ask your questions like, am I at peace with myself and others, right? How is your relationship with other people? And ask questions like, what do I enjoy doing? And all these questions help you reflect on where you are at in life, and if you want to go further in your goals, right? So we also wanted to say that happiness is not something that you feel constantly, just like other emotions. So it's okay if you're not happy right now.
It's like one of the questions Umaymah says, well, what do I not enjoy doing? Like something for me personally, I do not enjoy doing the dishes. And I still have to do them because, it's expected
Chores,
of me.
yeah.
But I try to take it in a positive light. Like, oh, I'm being more I'm moving my body by doing the dishes. I'm like, in a soul perspective, I think of it like, oh, this like is something I'm doing because my mom told me to. And like in that sense, like my mom told me to, and I want to like make her happy and I want to listen to her, is how it helps me get through doing it. Like I don't want to make my mom disappointed in me. I don't want to make her upset with me. So I try to keep that in mind whenever I'm doing the dishes, even though I absolutely hate doing them and I do not want to do them. Like I'd rather not, but that's why I try to keep in mind to just help me do it. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
It's really about, just thinking deeply about everything and anything. So for me, on the contrary, what I like to do, I always say this, I have a lot of things that I am interested in and whatnot, but one of the main things that I really enjoy doing is doodling and, just drawing, just, taking a pen or a pencil and having a blank piece of paper to express exactly how I'm feeling. So that's what I enjoy doing.
So it's important to understand what you're feeling and why you're feeling the way you do. And in that way, when you understand those things, you'll better understand yourself and what you truly want in life and how to go about things really. And another thing is being grateful that that you are feeling what you're feeling, because if you look at it in a deeper sense, you have the ability to feel something, and that is a blessing as well. Like if you really think about it, like being able to have these emotions is a blessing.
Yeah. And we kind of wanted to talk about another tip. So that might help you take care of yourself as a whole is, by doing things that make you you.
So by doing things that make you, doing things you enjoy, you'll feel better about yourself and more content. Like things that make you happy, not doing things that other people like. One thing, like one of your friends might really like roller skating, but you don't. Like it doesn't bring you joy, but you want to spend time with your friends, but it doesn't bring you joy. So just try to stray away from it and do things that build up your personality. Don't try and break down your personality for other people. Just build yourself, I think, is a way to say
exactly. It's not about, when you focus on yourself, you're not being selfish. You're taking care of yourself, and that's extremely important. So, again, with the questions, ask yourself, like, have I taken some time out of the day today to really be with myself, And, since we're all at home and we're with our family constantly, are we, spending time for ourselves, or are we doing too much, spending too much time away from ourselves, right? And, have you done anything that, makes you feel like the person you are right now, right? And if not, if you don't want to ask those types of questions, and if you're, if you're not doing those things, then why are you not doing them, Why are you not taking the time to yourself?
So if you don't know where to start, try by making a list of things you've always wanted to do, or jot down some simple activities that you would like to do.
Yeah, and those activities can be as simple as, taking a walk, drawing, like I mentioned before, or even taking a relaxing bath. Always have time for yourself every day. And it helps you feel stressed about life and everything else. So it's really important to, that these activities help you feel more balanced and just more in your element.
Something else you can do, like I said, is jot down things. So you can do that in a journal separate from your school journals, like similar to a diary, but not exactly a diary, because you're not writing your deepest feelings in there. You're just writing like things like, I have a journal and I actually brought it today, but I forgot it. So in my journal, I don't write like my feelings down because I'm like worried somebody's gonna find it. So what I do is I write down types of K-dramas, like K-drama recommendations I like eventually want to watch. Like it's super long. Things I want to do in the future, my wish list, because I know like when it comes around, like people want to buy me things. They ask me like, what do you want? And I'm like, I don't know. So that's like one thing. Like now, like I have like built up a list of things I want. Another thing I write down is like places I want to go, my bucket list. Like those things, like just like it makes me kind of feel organized, even though it's just like for the future. It makes me like have something to look forward to in a sense.
Definitely. And, it doesn't have to be just things that you want or whatever. You can have a journal for your aspirations, your thoughts, if you want to pour your feelings onto a piece of paper and, kind of let that go. Or you can even write down like your reflection about how you are and where you're at in life, or even a journal full of gratitude, the things that you're thankful for. Yeah.
Basically, a journal that focuses on you.
You, exactly. Having a journal will help you track your thoughts, your progress, and on your goals, and etc.
It'll help you visualize all you need to stay in the moment, to like stay grounded.
And it's extremely important to focus on your well-being in every aspect of your life, because it's important to, look at who you are and where you're at right now. And we hope that these 3 episodes in our series, Mending the Self, help you do just that.
And with that concludes our final Mending the Self episode, Taking Care of the Soul. Welcome to One Girl at a Time, a podcast for girls, by girls, with girls. I'm Hajar.
And I'm Umaymah, and we are here to spotlight on the power that girls have in this world.
For this episode's World at a Glance, we wanted to talk about Asian American hate crimes.
I know all of you more than likely saw what was happening on social media, and we wanted to talk about it here on our podcast to spread more awareness.
The reason why Asian Americans are being hate crimed is due to the news about coronavirus originating in Wuhan, China. People saw this as an excuse to be hateful towards all Asians here in America.
Keyword excuse. Asian Americans aren't the only ones being targeted. Pacific Islanders have also been affected by this. Hate and discriminations towards minorities is nothing new, but the reason why this been given the coverage that it has is because of how much it has increased in the past year.
Crime against Asians in the year 2020 alone has increased 150%, according to the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at California State University, San Bernardino. The 2 cities in which Asians have been targeted majorly are New York and California.
A California-based reporting center for Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, Stop AAPI has received over 3,800 reports of anti-Asian attacks since March of last year,
most of which were reported by women.
Please spread more awareness to your friends and your family, or even on your social media, about the topic, and help those who need it.
And with that, we conclude our World at a Glance segment. In today's episode, we will be talking with Laiba Majib, the passionate 13-year-old author of The Gemini Rain.
Thank you so much for being on here. Welcome to our podcast.
We're so happy to have you on our show today, Laiba.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So for those who don't know about you, could you please kind of tell us about who you are and kind of what you do?
Well, I'm 14 years old. I'm an 8th grader at Uplift North Hills Preparatory. I love to write. Obviously, I'm an author. I love to read. I'm a big reader. It's a key essential to being an author. I love to paint and sketch for fun, and I love to help others.
That's so amazing. Thank you, Deva. So about your book, The Gemini Rain, how did you come up with the title?
Well, the title went through lots of stages. It went through a lot because it took me a while to figure out what I wanted the readers to see first when they opened my book, or what I wanted them to think when they saw the cover. And basically, it's Gemini. Gemini means twins. The meaning is a big part of it because the book is surrounded by a pair of twins who are fighting over their reign.
That's so cool. And you can tell just from the title that a lot of thought went into it. So that's amazing.
So I wanted to ask, what initially led you to writing it? Like, why did you decide for this to be your first book, and why did you decide to write it all together?
Well, the book idea came to me after rereading one of my favorite series, The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. I really didn't have an idea when I was reading, but one night I had a dream about a group of kids surrounding a scroll or a book that led them to their mission in life. And that next morning, I wrote down the idea, and the idea obviously went through lots of changes, but that's what initially helped me start the idea for the Gemini Rain.
That's so cool. So, being an author, and you're extremely young and extremely mature, might I add. So, when did you realize that writing this book was something that you definitely wanted to do?
When I first I was really little. In first grade, I had an assignment to write my own version of the classic story Chicken Little, and the assignment was to write one page. But I didn't know this before, but I really love writing, and I wrote 6 pages of this story with more than 3 characters, with lots of dialogue. And my teacher was super surprised, and she was like, "You could have a career in writing. Like, you're only first grade and you're already writing so much." And I think that's what really gave me the idea. Like, it was just at the back of my mind.
You said that writing that Chicken Little writing prompt was what you didn't realize at the time, but it was something that like you wrote a lot. So, but where do you think your love for writing comes from? Like, is there any like specific inspiration, any specific person in your life?
I think my love of writing is just contributed to how much I love reading and how much I love to write or like storytell. I know I've always loved reading books and fairy tales, and it was just always super cool to me that someone wrote this story and now millions of people are reading it. And so I think my love of writing stemmed from storytelling and the idea that so many people can hear a story and spread it throughout the world.
That's so cool. Excuse me. So, back to your book, The Gemini Rain. How long did it take you to write it?
I started it 2 years ago, but I wasn't actively writing or frequently writing every week. But once quarantine started, or like towards the end of quarantine, I started writing, and it took me about 3 months to finish the um, writing of the book, and then the editing and publishing took about 2 months, so 5 months in total.
5, yeah.
Well, that's really amazing. And like 5 months of work into it. What were your feelings when you finally published it? Like, I'm sure that was like
An amazing feat for you, right? You published it and you have the physical copy in your hand. So, like, what were some of the feelings that you felt in that moment?
For me, it was really nerve-wracking. I didn't know how to feel. I was shocked. But once the initial shock went over, I was super excited. I couldn't wait for people to read it. And I was very ecstatic. I don't know how to explain it, but it was just like, it was kind of like I didn't know if it was real or not. Like, it felt like a dream.
it's kind of like similar to how we felt when we finally published our podcast. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, we did that. Like, you did that, and you need to give yourself a lot of credit, because writing a book is so like something that is so amazing.
And when you're only like 14, and you said that you brought your passion kind of into life. So that's so amazing, and we're so glad to have you like talking here with us about what you like to do. And I can't, like, I've ordered the book already and I can't wait to actually finally read it. And I was so ecstatic, like you said, when I heard about you. So it was, yeah.
So I wanted to ask, what was something you wish someone told you before writing and publishing your book?
First, I'd like to say thank you for ordering the book. That's amazing. I can't wait till you read it, and I hope to know what you think about it.
I wrote that.
For me, what I would have liked to know was the difference between publishing traditionally and publishing self-publishing. That was a really big thing. I think it's a big thing for all authors, and I know traditionally publishing is um, much more like you have more people helping you through it, and self-publishing is kind of you're doing it on your own. You don't know what you're doing. Like for me, I didn't know what I was doing, and it took a lot of time for me to research, and there wasn't really a good place to find out that information. But now that I know more about it, I think that it's amazing that there are people out there who are helping and giving out information about that, even though I didn't know where to find it. I also think I would have liked to know how stressful it can be, the writing process, and how hard it is to go through that by yourself at a young age. And I think that it would have been really helpful if I knew a little bit more about the writing process and the publishing process before.
Most definitely. Now that we've talked about, the writing process and the publishing process, self-publishing actually, we actually want to talk a little bit about the book. Like, did you incorporate your personality, or like if you did, how did you do that?
Yeah, my personality is definitely incorporated in my characters, my main characters especially. Avery is one of my main characters, and I think I think I gave her more of my quick wit and like sass a little bit because I do have a little bit of sass. I think I gave her a lot of my um, anxiety and worry too. I think I incorporated a lot of my personality into her, but I also incorporated a lot of my personality into another main character. His name is Justin. He is really responsible and he's really careful about what he does, and he's always friendly towards people and tries to hide his own emotions sometimes in order to help others find out their emotions or bring awareness to their emotions.
I bet a lot of people can relate to those feelings and kind of situations. So it's great that you put it into a physical, thing and into the story. So when people read about it, they can kind of like relate to both Avery and Justin. So that's really cool.
I think we want to know, you've mentioned Avery and Justin, as Umaymah said. Who is your favorite character in the Gemini's reign?
I don't think anyone could have a favorite character, but I think there's another character. His name is Aiden. I think he's my favorite character just because he's really emotional and I can relate a lot to him because he doesn't know how to express his feelings in a way that helps him feel better. I think he's just really quiet and but really angry, and I think writing about him just is really fun. So I think he's one of my favorite characters.
Ooh, okay. So I know that you kind of talked about like 3 characters so far. So for those who are, for our readers, not readers, but our
Listeners.
our listeners, our viewers, could you give us like a short summary about Gemini Rain?
Yeah, of course. Basically, of course, it's about a young girl, Avery, 16 years old. She's really going through a lot of trauma and PTSD because of her mother's death, and she's trying to unmask the secrets her parents left behind when they left her. And Justin, he's trying to raise Avery. He's Avery's older brother. He's trying to raise Avery by his parents' wishes, but it conflicts his way of thinking and his way of believing how to raise her. And he's only 19 himself, and he's barely gone through his life, and he has a lot of conflicted feelings about how to raise her and if he should follow the path of his parents. And the overall story is about a family who's struggling to keep their family together and trying to unmask the secrets and lies their parents have left behind and trying to forgive each other for the mistakes they made.
I'm really excited to read it because Mamiya is gonna let me borrow her book after she gets it. And we wanted to end this interview off by asking you, what would you like to say to all the young authors out there?
I would like to say they're amazing. Congratulations to you for accomplishing such a thing that's so hard to achieve, even at a supposed or designated age for writing a book. And I think that you should just keep on doing what you love and never think about what other people think about you, and always just power on through everything you want to do.
That's so sweet, Ava. We were so happy to have you on our podcast. And you're so well spoken and mature for your age. And like I said before, we were really excited to have you on our podcast. And thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
So once again, it's me, Umaymah.
And Hajar, reminding you that you can change the world.
And it starts with you. So connect and chat with us on our social media links below, and be sure not to miss any of our next episodes.
If you or someone you know would like to be featured in our next episode,
or if you have any questions for us,
contact us at ojatpodcast@mudeltaalpha.org. We would love to hear from you.
Keep being amazing. See y'all next time.
Bye.